Hey guys, welcome to Franklin Woodworks. I'm uncharacteristically in front of the camera today to address a lot of questions and comments that I've had recently about my DIY air cleaner, air filter thing. I'm using notes so I don't lose my mind. But let me start off by saying what this is not. It's not an air purifier. It doesn't filter fumes, although I guess it could if you use the right kind of filter. But I'm not sure it would really work that well for that. I didn't make this with anything in mind other than using it in a wood shop. And very simply, it just takes a lot of the dust out of the air in the shop. That's what it's for. It doesn't replace wearing a mask. It doesn't replace a dust collection system, which gets a lot of the dust right at the tool. This simply helps keep the air in the shop a little cleaner. Could it be better? Absolutely it could. I could have a better fan. I could have better filters. I could have used a squirrel cage fan. I could have used a fan with metal blades that's more powerful. But I literally built this out of things that were sitting in my shop. I used scrap plywood from other projects. I used an old box fan that was sitting in my basement for a couple of years. And that's it. The filters I use cost less than $1 a piece. You know, I'm not an engineer. I didn't make this with any kind of scientific thought about it. A lot of my opinions about this, the way this operates, is anecdotal. About 1/4 of the comments I get on this thing are comments that say simply, this doesn't work. Not, it doesn't work well, or you could make it more efficient if you did X. Just very simply, it doesn't work. Well, I hate to disappoint the 25%, but you're wrong. You're dead wrong. And I'll confess for a while that I went down the rabbit hole of, looking at these people's channels and trying to figure out if they knew what they were talking about. Were they laminar flow engineers or fluid dynamic engineers or something like that? They may be, but they've got no platform for sharing their knowledge other than snarky comments. I did find a couple of channels that did have videos, but they were mainly of their cats. Yes. Yes. Anyway, to answer many of the real questions and real comments that I get on the unit, I'll give you a short tour of it, and I'll make some filter changes and show you how good or how bad, depending on how you look at it, that it works. And by the way, I hung mine on the ceiling over my table saw. And I did this for no scientific reason, but hanging it over my table saw ensured that it was out of the way. I wasn't going to crack my head open on it, and it didn't take up valuable floor space. So that's my scientific reason for that. So here's the unit working with pretty dirty filters. I will concede that this is not a wind tunnel, but it does move a good amount of air, and the state of the filters pretty much backs that up. Many of you ask about the filter setup, so we'll look at that next as I do a filter change. Now, originally I had a magnet that held the door closed, but when I put the cowling around the fan, for some reason I did away with it, and now I just use a screw to hold the door shut, but that works fine too. For the filters themselves, I use really cheap low MERV filters. I get a 4-pack of these at Home Depot for about $4. Now, I could use really good filters, but I don't want to spend $20 or more a week on filters. Plus, the lower MERV filters are much easier on the fan. Now I know that if I get an 8-inch thick furnace filter, the filtering surface area is many times greater and will have better airflow. But they're expensive and they will clog up fast. Don't forget, I'm cheap. So I have 3 filters on the intake side of the fan, 1 filter on the exhaust side. Could you use less? Sure. But I think, and this is completely anecdotal, that I get better filtration with 3 before the fan. As I change the filters, I'll show you why. When the outermost intake filter gets dirty, I remove it and rotate the filters outwards. I move the middle filter to the first slot and the innermost filter to the middle. Then I put a new filter in the innermost slot. You can see just how dirty the outer filter is and how clean the inner filter is. The exhaust filter rarely gets changed. Now, I generally use really high MERV filters on the exhaust, but I ran out and just stuck a low MERV filter in there for the time being. But you can see how much dust that one actually gets in the long run too. And I've had that exhaust filter in there for 4 months maybe. For the fan itself, it's a $20 box fan that I bought at Walmart a few years ago. It has plastic blades, and I'm sure it's not very powerful. But inside this box, the fan remains clean. There's no dust buildup on it, and it hasn't burnt out. I'm sure it will one day, and when that happens, I'll probably look around for a better fan. I know all these fans are not created equal, and maybe I just got lucky and got a good one. But this one has been going strong for over 2.5 years. Many have asked what the particle count is before and after the filter gets turned on. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that the particle count after is less. And that's all you're going to get. I'm not going to buy some expensive particle measuring equipment just to prove my point on this. Maybe if I get 1 million subscribers, I might entertain that idea. But right now it makes no financial sense for me to do that. So I'd like to address, or maybe even rant, about some comments. And some of these are about this video, some are just, comments in general. You may think you're anonymous making those comments, but you're really not. I know who all of you are. Trust me. And the funny thing is that you'll say things on the internet that you would never say to my face or anybody else's face. Not because I'm probably bigger than you, but because we just don't do that to people's faces. Why would you do it on the internet? I don't know. I guess it's just easy. Here's a few recent comments that were just unnecessary. Fortune and equipment to make. It's a joke. Well, if you compare me to the Wood Whisperer or Jimmy DeResta, I don't have a fortune in equipment. I've got a lot of tools, but my tools aren't that expensive. And by the way, it took probably $1 billion worth of equipment to make the car that you drive. It took millions to make that first copy of Windows that we all use every day. It takes money to make things. And the most expensive thing in my shop is my table saw. And I didn't buy my table saw $1,300 to build this fan filter thing. I bought it because I'm going to make and have made hundreds of projects with it. So from that standpoint, it costs me about $1 every time I use it. So that's not extravagant. That's not expensive. That's practical to me. Too much work. I'd rather buy an air purifier for 50 bucks. I don't know what kind of air purifier you're going to buy, but good luck with that. Filter gets dirty, then blows dirt. What? I can fart harder than that fan blows. I'm sure you can. Overkill. Just duct tape a filter to the fan. Now, this is not a bad comment. I think it's poorly worded by telling me that I wasted all my time. But in truth, a lot of folks just duct tape a filter to a box fan and hang it or set it up on the floor or whatever. And you know what? It works great. Izzy Swan did a video on doing just exactly that and compared it to a commercial unit. And the results are astonishing. So, is that a bad idea? No. I did that for a long time. I just didn't want to look at that anymore. So I wanted something that the filter changes were easy. It wasn't messy, dealing with duct tape and residue and all that kind of stuff. So I decided to build this. That's my decision. It's my stuff. I don't know why that's worthy of criticism. And one man's overkill is another man's hobby. So deal with that. So I know I'm poking fun at commenters, or am I? But the reason is simple. The woodworking community on YouTube and other social platforms are phenomenal. It's a phenomenal community. I've never met a woodworker in that situation that wouldn't seriously want to answer a legitimate question or give advice or take advice. I've met some of the real big dogs in this thing. Jay Bates, April Wilkerson, James Hamilton, Izzy Swan, who really got me into woodworking to begin with, and even the great one, Jimmy DeResta. All of them had time for me. They weren't too busy or too big or too high on themselves to take time just to talk to somebody who was a fan or to somebody that had questions. And they didn't even know that I was a big time YouTuber either. They just thought I was Joe Blow off the street. But this whole community is phenomenal. And, trolling and giving nasty comments and stupid comments, all that does is get you blocked or deleted. And then guess what? Nobody hears you. If you want to have a voice, be a human being and interact like human beings do. Don't silence yourself. That's shooting yourself in the foot. Didn't mean to take a negative turn. I hope that ending was kind of positive. But this is a great place. If you want to learn, if you want to share some knowledge, this is definitely the place to do it. But just do it like a human being and not a troll. So anyway, those are my 2 cents. I hope I answered all the questions about the unit that you may have. But if I didn't, comment below. I'm going to leave links to all of the videos that I've made about that unit. And I would encourage you to watch all of them. If you've got serious questions, don't understand how it works, or anything like that. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, although I can be deficient in that area sometimes. I appreciate most of you that comment. I really enjoy the back and forth and the sharing of suggestions and the legit questions that make me think about what I'm doing a little bit better. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate you watching. There you go.